Okay, guys, Elia Uboto, we are back. New week, new month, and happy birthday to the host. So if you're watching this video on the Monday, the Sunday was the host's birthday. So happy birthday to the host. So with that being said, let's jump into today's video. So in today's video, I want to talk about the hot topic around Namibia, the topic on free tertiary education in the country. Brilliant idea. I think this topic has actually been going around for the past 2-3 weeks now since the announcement by Her Excellency Dr. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah at the State of the Nation address, or her first State of Nation address. So I actually was one of the people that actually watched the sauna, that from start to end. I just saw that I guess hear whatever the president had to say for myself. So one of the things, like I said, that came out of there, the biggest highlight was that the president announced that tertiary education is going to be free starting 2026. And obviously this was received with mixed emotions by the country. And I wanted to give my comments already then, but I wanted to just see what everybody else has to say about it, and then before I give my comments. So watching that sauna, for me, it was, I think I came out also celebrating that, okay, at least this free education thing has been addressed now. Because the one thing that I think we struggle with the most as citizens is tertiary education fees. It's quite expensive. I think that just to start with the registration fees already, I remember in my days at NAS just going for 4,000 a semester. So that is just to register, and then you have to pay your module fees on that. So yeah, shout out to the government for actually putting this plan up to bring education to be free for tertiary education and tertiary institutions, as well as TVET institutions like your what is this, your vocational training centers that are owned by the government. Okay, as much as this is a brilliant idea, I think there should still be a lot of things that needs to be put in place for this brilliant idea to actually work. All right, so I think the first thing that needs to be put in place is that we need to establish a fund. I think this is one of the ideas actually that one of the opposition member parliament gave in response to the idea, is that the government should establish a fund, a separate fund, of which they collect $50 from each taxpayer, as well as their employers. So the employer should pay $50 for each of their employees who are eligible to pay tax, and then the employees themselves should contribute the $50 on their behalf. So the member gave an example of, currently we have about 500,000 registered taxpayers. So he gave a good simple mathematics that, okay, if we take the 500,000 multiplied by $100 a month, I'm not gonna give the answers, but you can do them yourself. So we're gonna have a significant amount that is being put aside, at least monthly, and eventually in a year, I think it's gonna be around $1 billion something, and we keep doing that every year. So we're gonna have just those funds sitting there, and they will be directed to the institutions specifically for tuition fees of all Namibians. Now, to add on this idea, for me, is that you can actually add on that, okay, put a stoppage as well on qualifications that our industry doesn't demand. All right, so in that way, you have now institutions that are producing graduates who are getting jobs, and then these graduates become taxpayers who then contribute to this fund that funds free education. So currently we're at 500,000 eligible or registered taxpayers. If this idea works, in the next 5 years, we'll probably have more than 500, definitely we'll have more than 500,000 taxpayers. So that $100 contribution a month is now also going to increase. So at some point, this whole thing is gonna become self-funded. So you're gonna have graduates being produced, coming in the job industry, they pay their tax, they pay the $50 to the fund, and then the fund funds the new students, and then it just becomes well-oiled machine, a gift that keeps giving. Okay, that's number one. And then number two, look at other countries who are doing it. I think Botswana is doing it at a very greater scale. I think they fund even their foreign students. I mean, students who are studying in foreign countries, their education is also free. So we can you can sit down with the leadership in Botswana and see how they actually have this whole thing working. How did they implement it? What are they doing that's working? So that's one of the options to consult them, because they've been doing it for years now, And then the other thing is, I think I mentioned already, to put a stoppage on qualifications that are not demanded by the country. Because I think one of the things I saw was that I watched, there's a conference that normally takes place every year, organized by the CEOs of state-owned enterprises. So last year they invited Mene Tumbo to come and speak as the keynote speaker. And she actually encouraged there to be a sync between the industry and universities. So at that whole conference, there were CEOs of state-owned entities. I think universities were also present there. So she encouraged them, like, they need to sit down, and the universities talk to the industry, ask them what do they need, and tailor your qualifications to what they need, and then we can give them, because currently we have vacancies, but we don't have the skills. Or we have skills, but we don't have a demand for those skills. So there's that whole mismatch there. So that mismatch needs to be addressed, and then this idea will flourish. And the other thing is funding from the UN and so forth. I think in the past, what actually made the high schools and the primary schools to sort of like experience a downfall when they got their education to be free was that the funds always arrived late at the institutions. So they didn't have money to do their admin, they didn't have money to pay their service providers. So what we ask is that the government can also like try to align their institutions starting period with their funders year ends. So then we get the money before the institution starts operating for the year. Because if we don't do that, again, we're gonna have service providers striking. We're not gonna have enough printing papers or printing stationery, because the money is not there yet, and business is continuing at this institution. So let's look into the alignment of those periods. All right. So if this idea lands properly in the next 10 to 15 years, it can sit to a point where we will also be able to fund students who are studying outside the country for free, from their flights to their accommodation to their school to their books. We can do that. We can also be able to even tap into the private institutions, and then go further to private schools and subsidize half of those fees again for the locals. So it's doable, as long as there's consultations that are being done. We are listening to professionals who are in the industry to give us ideas on how we can actually implement this idea. This is a very brilliant idea, and like for me, I wouldn't want to see this idea fail, man. Like this is one of those ideas that can really, if it's well implemented and way well seen through its implementation as it go and as it progresses, it can really like do the most for the country's job industry, the tertiary education industry, let alone the primary education industry. So yes, that's all I wanted to say. I'm sorry for boring you, but I thought I could just give those points to on that topic, and just to have this topic also documented on the digital library. I hope you found it informative, and if you did, man, give this video a thumbs up, and see you in the next one. Elia Uboto, and this is the digital library. Cheers, have a good one.